have half a mind to do ritual here with you. But this ritual has to stay in the room, okay? It must not leave this place, okay? If you tell anyone about this, you will die, okay? So let's do this together, okay? Everyone rise to your feet. If you can rise to your feet, please rise to your feet. And it's simple. It's simple. It's what happens in Nairobi, not Vegas this time, stays in Nairobi. So I would like you to find 3 people, just 3 people. If you find 4, you will die. If you find 2, you know the drill. This is the safety stuff as well. This is safety, okay? Find 3 people only and give them a hug so radically decomposing that you hold on. Wait a minute. This is how accidents happen. All right? Not a premature death here, okay? So listen to the instructions. Give them a hug so radical, so decomposing, so entangling, okay, that you leave the stain of your skin on theirs. All right? 3, 2, 1, go. All right, that's enough. It's enough. The reason why I do that all the time is that it always fails. It never works. People never follow instructions. If you did 3, let me see your hands up. If you did 4 and disobeyed, you are the people we are looking for. Thank you for disobeying entirely my remarks. Well, good morning to you again. It's a beautiful time and wonderful pleasure to be here in Nairobi, my first time in Nairobi. I teach in the United States. I live in India because I'm not quite comfortable in living entirely in the United States for certain reasons that have to do with orange dispensations in White Houses. But I was so excited to say yes to this. This year has been a year of heavy travel for me. My life is constantly lived in the skies these days. And so I'm excited to be here at this time of rupture and new beginnings. And thank you for being game to do a ritual. I came here with a song. I have half a mind to start with a song. You might know this one. I'm not the singing person. Thomas probably has a singing person. But I have this song that was needling its way through my mind this morning. I almost dreamt of it and came with it. You might know it. Deo. You know it? Deo. What's the rest? Some people are mumbling the words. Come on now. It's Deo, Deo. Daylight comes and we want to go home, right? It's a famous, who here is from the Caribbean? Jamaica, anyone here? No. We all are from Jamaica in a sense. It's a famous folklore, traditional song that is, that speaks about, dock workers, offloading and loading bananas. And then they're working at night and they want to go home. And so they call the tallyman to count the bananas and pay them to go home. And I don't know why this song, anchored itself to my memory this morning. But yes, it wanted to be heard. Deo! Again. Deo! Come on. There you go. Beautiful song. And isn't that exactly the metaphor for what we want, why we're here? We want daylight, right? We want to go home. In times of fire, James Baldwin spoke about the no more water, the fire next time. Remember that? right? It's that we are in times of fire and the spread of authoritarianism and fascism and genocide, and we want to go home. What does home mean when the world is burning? That's the song. What does it mean to call for daylight in these times? And I want to just dwell with that because this famous, ultra famous song was made ultra famous because of one dude, one ultra handsome dude. You might know his name, Harry Belafonte. There you go. Thank you. You're my audience. You're my crowd. Harry died April 25th, 2023, I think. And he was 96 years old. And I still remember watching the video of him in Tokyo in 1960 singing Bayo, and it just exploded. It became viral. And everyone sings Bayo today, nursery school rhymes, and everyone, including here in IDIA, we're singing it right now. This brother, Harry Belafonte, was honored by Ford Foundation, I think a few months after he died. And they gave him, I don't know if you know Harry well, but he was an activist, he was a singer, he was an actor. What else? He walked with Martin Luther King. I mean, he knew all the dudes. He was a great man. And so Ford Foundation honored him by giving him one more title. They called him a firefighter for justice. This was in 2023, firefighter for justice. And then in that commemorative piece, they related a story that Harry Belafonte told just before, a few decades before he died. He told a story about 1968. And this is dear to me, and I'll tell you why. I'm the Hubert Humphrey Distinguished Professor of American Studies, if you can believe that. And it's almost contractually obligatory for me to name that I'm Hubert Humphrey, because Hubert Humphrey was the vice president of the United States that helped pass the Civil Rights Act in 1964. Monumental moment, right? So in 1968, something happened. Martin Luther King, Brother King, was in the house of Harry, and they were having a party. Of course, Harry had parties. And Martin Luther King was sitting down, and he was looking despondent. And Harry came to him and said, "Brother, what's happening? What's going wrong? What's happening here?" And Martin Luther King said, "You see, we've had all these beautiful moments, black people. We passed the Civil Rights Act 4 years ago with President Lyndon B. Johnson. Black people are integrating more. We have the Poor People's Campaign. Things are happening for us." And then he paused and he said, "But why do I feel we're integrating into a burning house? Why do I feel we're integrating into a burning house?" See, that was a seminal moment for Martin Luther King. It was 5 days before he was murdered. This was March 1968. He was murdered in the first week of April 1968. Because all his life, Martin Luther King had been a moral technician, right? His work was to trace the long arc of justice that dipped into resolution, into solution, into scalable results. And all of a sudden, he was asking questions that were strange. He said, what if justice is a form of incarceration? What if the road that we're traveling is only deepening the crisis that we're trying to evade? What if the trouble that we're trying to run away from, what if the escape, the algorithm of escape, is only a deepening logic, the grammar of our incarceration? What if justice is too much, or it's getting in the way of transformation? Those are not questions that he published in his lifetime. It was a crack in his moral edifice, and it erupted in the very final moments of his life. Now, I say that because I think we are in those cracks today. I think we are in a time not of progressive refinement, but of ontological rupture, where the old ways of speaking about our lives or what we want to do, scaling, acceleration, innovation, has to change. And I'm not here to be a motivational speaker, right? Most people think I'm a motivational speaker. Let's do it. No, I'm not. No, I don't do that. I'm here to trouble us ever so slightly, can make us uncomfortable. That's why we hugged, by the way, just so you can have your nervous system held so that we can get into this phase together. I want to say a few more things. Martin Luther King responded to Harry Belafonte in that same meeting. Harry is relating this. Harry said, so what do we do, brother? What do we do about that? Integrate you into a burning house. How do we respond to that? And Martin Luther King said, well, I guess we have to be firemen. I guess we have to be firemen. I can forgive Martin Luther King for saying that. And the reason why I say that is I'm not exactly sure what it means to be a fireman. Did he mean someone who puts out fires or someone who sets things to fire? Was he speaking about arson? Was he trying to be an arsonist? No, I see my brother there saying, no, obviously not. But if it's the latter, if it's about putting out fires, it presumes too much. It presumes that we are in control of the water and we are behind the fire hose and we know exactly what we're doing. Such humanocentric, anthropocentric presumptions are being undone today with the rise and the resurgence and the insurgency of AI or microbes or bacteria or pandemics. It's like we're realizing that we're not the only ones on the planet and we've never been in charge. And that is humbling, right? So the idea that we can just summarily put out fires, that we can control the fire, we can control the direction of the water, it seems to presume too much. So I want to tell you a story about something else that doesn't look like a solution, but is an invitation to us to think differently about that question, what do we do in times of fire? When our justice systems are repeating the very structures and architectures and algorithms and grammars and logics that we're trying to upset. And just to give you an example, so this doesn't feel like poetic, highfalutin language, COP30 just happened, right? How many of you were there? Right? No one was there. I was in Brazil. I was there to meet President Lula in a private meeting, which was canceled because Bolsonaro was getting jailed, right? So that has been postponed. But I did not go to COP30 for a reason. And something happened there. I don't know if you all got this news, but COP30 burst into flames. Did you see the news, right? The very thing, the very solution that was architecturally designed to put out fires in the world caught fire. And that is not just a metaphor. It speaks to the deep ontological crisis at the heart of the presupposition that we are in charge and that we can snap our fingers like, what's this dude in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Thanos. Is this my crowd here, Thanos? I know my brother there is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I just saw the rings and I knew that. I knew you're my dude right there. Right, that we can snap our fingers and order the day. I think that notion is being composted right now. And so we're in a time of fascistic closures where the entire world is closing, not just the United States. This is not just an orange phenomenon. It's that the entire world is closing its gates and everyone is saying, go back to where you came from, right? Now we're in time of pandemics, we're in time of climate chaos, we're in a time of a decline in trust in democratic institutions, when politics seems so tribalized, how we know anything at all is becoming so politically divided that nuanced and complex conversations no longer seem possible. Now, the go-to thing is cancellation politics. This is where we are as a species today. It calls not for the adoption of the same language we're used to, it called for something different. So let me tell you this story. I come from the Yoruba people, as you might see from my fabulous dress, shirt, whatever. My mother made this for me, and she made me promise that I would wear it for this. So I'm fulfilling that promise. No, don't clap. It's all right. Yeah, it's my mom. This story is from the Yoruba people. the Yoruba people have a cosmological structure that has the orishas. We call them orishas, right? They're like the gods and goddesses and deities. You could call them the Avengers. They're like superhuman forces, right? The god of thunder and fire, his name is Shango. Anyone here know Shango? Brother, you don't need to nod your head. I know you do. I know you do there. Shango is the god of fire. Now, there's this story that I learned growing up. Shango had 3 wives, Oshun, Oba, and Oya. Okay? Now, Oba was the first wife. Oshun was the last wife. And Oba did not know how to cook. Oshun could make the exact opposite, a wonderful pot of stew. And Shango was eternally pleased with her cooking. So one day, Oba came to Oshun and said, could you just tell me what your secret sauce is? Like, why are you able to please our husband so persistently? What do you sprinkle in the soup that makes it so delicious to him? And Oshun, not about to give away her privilege, said, well, I cut my ear, just a little piece of my ear in the soup every day. I'm not exactly sure why Oba didn't take a closer look at her ears, but that's the story. She said, I cut a little piece of my ear and I mix it into the soup, and that's what makes it delicious. And so Oba tried it out. She decided if it's just a little piece that makes him so infatuated, then I'm going to cut my entire ear off. So a Van Gogh kind of principle. So she cut it off entirely, and she stirred it into the soup. Shango comes back from the farm, and he settles, and he sees an earlobe swimming, dancing about, waltzing with the other pieces of meat in his soup. And then he goes livid. He goes mad. And then when Shango grows mad, fire descends. And so the entire house burst into flames. Now, Oba and Oshun and Oya escaped the house. And something strange happened. Because in their flight away from the plantation, in their fugitive marinage, they became water, right? They didn't put out the fire, they became water. And so they became the rivers that we celebrate today in Nigeria. I don't live in Nigeria, but I would like to visit these rivers. They became river. They became water. Now, that might seem like a non-solution, right? What does it mean to become water instead of putting out fires? That's what I want to stay with, poetically, spiritually, fugitively, philosophically, gastronomically, bacterially, architecturally, all of that. That the time is ripe not to put out fires, because that's a humanocentric framework. The time is ripe to become water. And so I speak everywhere around the world about what I call a para-pragmatism. Because what I think pragmatism is not a neutral zone where we're just acting upon the world. It's a moral policing that adjudicates what is agency, that tells you who is the right person to act, right? Pragmatism is not neutral. It's a political thesis. So when people say be pragmatic, they're not just being helpful or being neutral. They're inviting you into an ideology that presupposes that the right posture in the world is a certain rectilinear posture. Pragmatism is orthogonal. It's the rectilinearity of agency. It steals and captures liminality. There's something about pragmatism that blinds us to other ways of being on the planet and in the world. And that's why I speak about para-pragmatism, which is acting beside acting, right? It's not a solutionistic enterprise. It's not an invitation to guarantees. It's a way of listening. Now, some might say, well, that doesn't do anything. We need to stop the fires. Well, the thing is, our very attempts to stop fires are bursting into flames now. The very ways that we have been coached into thinking about agency and activism is under fire, is in crisis. So James Baldwin, the prophet, was right when he said, no more water, the fire next time. And this is where we are as a species. So this is not a time for progressive, as I said, refinement. This is ontological rupture. I just gave a keynote in UNESCO about AI, and everyone there came to that conference in Paris to speak about their innovative stuff, like, oh, governments were there to speak about, like, we're going to adapt AI to solve this educational issue. We're proliferating Samsung iPads in the villages, right, so that everyone can have access. And I got up on stage and I said, we often think about AI as technology, as a tool, but what if it's a trickster? Not a technology or a tool, but a challenge to our centrality. Now, I'm not about to get into a speech about AI right now, but the idea that we are in charge is probably the heart, the engine of the Anthropocene. The idea that we can command results is the engine of the Anthropocene, the very thing that got us here in the first place. So what do? I don't know. I don't know. This is not about me telling you exactly. There's no blueprint. There's no map. But there's a posture. There's a posture. There is a way to approach and come to this moment that is marked by humility, that is marked by how we gather, how we hug each other, how we eat with each other. This is post-humanism. This is para-pragmatism. This is black studies. This is indigenous studies. This is ecofeminism. This is what people around the world have been speaking about for a long time before industrial edifices sprouted from the ground. This is an invitation for us to lose our way, right? If we're here, if you come into this IDIA conference and you leave with the familiar language that you came with, I think we failed. But if you came in here eloquent and confident in your position and you leave with a lisp or you leave with a limp, then that's exactly where the sacred has come in. That's where the divine has come in. And so I want to welcome you again, not to the highway, not to progressive refinement. I want to welcome you to the crack. I want to welcome you to rupture. I want to welcome you to something you don't know yet. I want to welcome you to the histories of fugitivity and to other ways of being alive in this moment. And maybe with that, I would say, Deo, may daylight come for all of us. Thank you.